Aloha everyone, I'm Susan Udowitz with letsfeelexcellent.com or the YouTube channel by the same name. And so I want to tell you about the 5 pinnacle system that I've developed for achieving an excellent life and certainly excellent health and well-being. And I thought about it for a long time. It was kind of something that was stuck in my crog, where I was just working on it all the time. What do people have to do to be pain-free or suffering-free? And it came to me like through my yoga practice. I was wondering, how much stretching does one person need to do to where they don't feel like they have to do that much stretching on a daily basis? Or why do we have to do stretching all the time? You know, there were areas in my being and also in the clients that I was working on where they could stretch them and stretch them and stretch them, and it would help, but there would never be any ending to the stretching. So I meditated on it a lot and I thought about it a lot, and finally it came to me that it's really not that much, but it is a lot of reconditioning, because we've conditioned ourselves into thinking that we need to do this and we need to do that and we need to do these other things, or we won't be happy unless we do these other things, and they're totally dysfunctional for our being. So let me show you what I mean. So here's my star, and there's 5 pinnacles to the star, and they're all equal in size because they're all equally as important. And so if we take the first one, it's a really popular area of health to work with, and that's our food, the way we fuel our body. I call it diet/cleanse. And the reason I call this area diet/cleanse is because people started asking me before I had any knowledge of nutrition or the chemistry of our bodies, what do we need? What kind of food should I eat? What kind of food should I eat? And I came up with this answer, which I still agree with today. If it isn't cleansing, it's clogging. So if we can't use it for fuel and it isn't cleansing our body, then it's clogging the body, and it has to be, then it's waste, and we have to get rid of it somehow. Well, we're going to have waste in our body anyway, because we're made up of trillions of cells, and what those cells do in every living form, cells eat and they poop. And the waste or the trash pickup in our bodies is that's more prevalent than the nutrition part of it. And we tend to think of it the other way around. We're always trying to gather food. You know, we're always going for food or foodstuffs or gaining things. And we're not really thinking about, we're only thinking of the waste when it builds up, right? Well, in our body, we have a fluid system, and there's 2 kinds of fluid. And the nutrition, the fluid system that brings the nutrition to the cell is only 25% of our body, and the fluid system that takes out the trash is 75% of our fluid system. Now, how much fluid are we? Well, we're 80% fluid, and we should be, at least. Some of us are dehydrated to the point where we're only 50% fluid, but we should be 80% fluid. Why? Because we're also electric. We run on electricity, just like what is running the lights in my house run on electricity. It has to have that flowing through the wires, and I have to have good wires that aren't frayed and good wires that are straight, so that that electricity can have a clear path to the receptacle that gives off the light. So in order for us to give off the light and have the energy to do what we need to do, then we need to be good conductors of electricity. That means we can't be bogged down with this waste, and our sewage system has to be working optimally. So the food that we choose to take into our bodies, it's just like the same thing as the air that we breathe. We can put that into this pinnacle of our star, because we might not be able to control our air too much, but it's the same thing. We use what we need to in the air, and the rest of the stuff that we're breathing in that we can't use and it isn't functional for us, if we can't exhale it out or excrete it out of our body, then it's stuck in our body and it has to be cleansed out in other ways. So that's the same thing there. The next pinnacle I want to talk about is rest. So rest can really help us with the elimination part of our system. It also can help us with the growth part of our system. And some of you are saying, I don't want to grow anymore. I want to lose weight. Well, you still need your growth hormones to be in place, because, and to be working optimally to lose weight, because you need those cells to be alive and well. And again, you need them to kick out what you don't need. So what you're holding on to in excess weight, you need those cells to kick out. Okay? So we need our rest to be functioning, so that a lot of times that breaks down to time management. If we're not getting enough rest, then we're not managing our time appropriately. And sometimes we're not resting well. It's not necessarily the hours of sleep that we're getting or we're not getting. We're not resting well enough, and our body's not getting a chance to recuperate and have that other side of the coin than our movement aspect of our life. And that's the next pinnacle, is the movement. And what that means is, well, you know, when we're feeling discomfort in our body, or sometimes we don't feel the discomfort, and sometimes there's a buildup in such a way where it creates something that is entitled to a label from our medical community, and it's actually labeled as what we might know as a disease. That means we have a weakness in a certain kind of way in a certain part of our body. So then it gets labeled as a disease. And what that means is that our connective tissue or our organs are, they have this debris in them in such a way where they're not able to function in an optimal way for us. And when we talk in terms of our connective tissue and our organ of support, which is the fascia that's wrapped around everything, when that stuff is full of acid and debris that needs to be cleansed out of the body, then the tissues cannot slide and glide on each other. And instead of a nice viscous fluid fascia, or whatever form the fascia needs to be in that area of the body, it starts to get thicker and harder and more like glue. In some places it gets very hard. Like when we talk about posture, we're really talking about what's functional in this body for its support of gravity. So in other words, it's really common for bodies to take on a shape where the body is shifted over to one side. So maybe the rib cage is shifted over to one side. And this is just one example of things that can be seen in the body. So if the rib cage is shifted over to one side, say, then the side that doesn't have the support in the block below, think of it as in blocks. So if the rib cage is one block shifted over, then in the hip area or wherever the gravity lands, then that tissue at some point, in some place, it has to get thicker and more hard, like bone, because it doesn't have the bones on top to support it, if that makes sense. I will be doing separate videos on all of these aspects, and so you can understand them more. And what I want to show you is some actual pictures of people and what I see when I look at a body, and where I can detect, where the body needs more support. It needs more support to hold gravity in the body. So the right kind of movement is important. It doesn't necessarily mean just exercise. Just like when we say the body needs to be more hydrated, or the tissue needs to be more hydrated, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person needs to drink more water and then that's the end of it. So when I say that a certain kind of movement, and what I teach my clients is what I call leverage movement therapy, where we're locating the tissue that needs to move, and we're actually using the structure of the body to get leverage and break apart those stagnant tissues and get the fluid and the energy flow back through those tissues so that can function in a more normal way. So when I talk about movement, I'm not necessarily saying, okay, just everybody go out and get more exercise, because that might not be the answer. That might actually be causing more acidity in the connective tissue, because there might be lactic acid buildup now. It might be causing the joints to actually become more compressed, depending on what it is and how the exercise itself is being done. So it's not just a matter of just moving more. There's certain bodies that may actually need to move less, a lot less. So that kind of thing needs to be worked out, and that could be worked out with the bodywork therapy that I do, with the structural integration, and also the leverage movement therapy that I do, that kind of coaching that I provide. And it can be done right over Skype too, which is really fun. Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is emotional state management. Why this pinnacle is so crucial is because everything we do depends on why we do it, why we decide to do it. So that is the psychology behind what we're doing. It makes no difference to know the best movement therapy or the best thing to put in your body if you're not going to actually implement that movement therapy or implement that choice for the food that you're eating. So our emotional state is everything, and we can learn to be energetic when it's time to be energetic. We can learn to turn on the parasympathetic side of the nervous system or the relaxing side of the nervous system when it's time to. Like I was mentioning in the rest / time management, quality of rest is really, really important. So if we're not complete at the end of the day, or when it comes down to the time of rest and we're not stimulated for rest, then that's a problem when we're stimulated the other way. When we're tired throughout our day and we're not stimulated for that day, but we're stimulated for rest, then we have the opposite problem happening. And reaching for sugar stimuli or new stimuli or caffeine stimuli, which is all really popular, is not the answer. That's just going to wear down our engines, it's going to wear down our organs, it's going to wear down our glands, and then we're causing more of a problem in our body rather than enhancing our life. You know, life should be like a springboard. We're just springboarding from one excellent time to the next excellent time. So we need to have the physical apparatus to do that. And to have the physical apparatus, then we need to be able to have the mental strength as well. So the last one I want to talk about is balancing hormones. And why that's so important is the hormones should already be accumulated in the body and balanced in the body. But if we are, again, running our engines full tilt while we're in park, then we're going to be causing a lot of cleanup to be happening. So, for example, if we're eating a lot of fatty foods and a lot of complex carbohydrates, but especially the fats, then we're going to have a problem later on with insulin, and we're going to have to use our adrenals to compensate for what our pancreas now can't do. And likewise, when we're reaching for caffeine for energy or just for the sheer drug effect of it, then our adrenals can't make the organs that make the hormones that, or regulate the hormones that we need to have regulated. So understanding hormones and hormonal balance is really important. It's just as important as everything in our body working together. So that's the 5 pinnacle system in a nutshell. And I want you to email me your comments or questions. And I'm going to set up 2 separate email accounts, so then I can get to the questions easier and your appointments easier, and so everything won't be jumbled up. So if you have questions, email me at this address, questions@letsfeelexcellent.com. questions@letsfeelexcellent.com. If you want to make an appointment, email me at appointments@letsfeelexcellent.com. appointments@letsfeelexcellent.com. Okay? So those are the 2 email addresses, and thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been helpful to you. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up and share it with other people that you think would be interested in this material. Have an excellent day. I'm Susan Nudowitz. Aloha.